Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Kenco F1 stream, and today we're in Monza, the Temple of Speed, but today, is it the Temple of Speed? Because we are in full wet conditions. Today I'm joined by Sam in the commentary box.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Monza. As Callum said, a bit different to what I would expect to picture Monza like. Obviously, very, very wet out on track at the moment. All 19 drivers on those wet tyres.
All wet conditions, extreme wet, some may say. But now through the Ascari chicane comes the leader, Max Chapman. We've got some old friends on the grid today. Casper Meach, the old Chapman, the old teammate of Chapman, down in the Renault.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Renault's seen that talent that Casper had. We've obviously had one of the Renault drivers drop out, and Casper has been snapped up back into that Renault seat, starting down in P18 today. I wonder what he can do in the wet conditions. It's going to be tricky to get those positions made up today.
Well, it's really a tale of whoever switches onto the softs or onto the dry tyres first, or whether it does actually get to dry conditions. We will see.
Yeah, that's the key question. It's obviously switching at the right time, if that time ever comes. So we'll have to see what the weather does today. It's going to be an interesting one, no doubt.
The rear of the pack now joining with Rinser, the final car to approach the grid, coming through the parabolic turn. You see all of the spray from all of those cars there up into the cameras, but we're waiting on the grid. Max Chapman, Torben Schutt at the front. Who will win? We don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be close. We've seen them fight very, very close in previous races. How we've seen Max and Torben Schutt is going to be an interesting one today.
Well, the lights are ready. They're going. We see them on the grid. All of the drivers are ready in the jump start by the looks of things from the AlphaTauri, who collides with the Ferrari. Max Chapman and Dylan Hartley looking to get a jump start. The Williams of Andre Abreu getting an amazing start back there. But Joel Foxall, we always see him on the intermediate tyres into turn one, might be looking for a dive down the inside. Remember, Dylan Hartley and Max Chapman both looked as if they jumped the start. I don't know if that was a glitch, but at the rear, there's a huge collision going down there into turn one. Some of the drivers will have to use the runoff coming across. Wow, what a start, Sam.
Yeah, that was so close going into the first chicane. No, we see that in the dry conditions, let alone in the wet. Some front wing loss from the Mercedes of Ben Mitchell by the looks of it.
What happened for Max Chapman? Was it a jump start which was caused by Dylan Hartley, who now gets overtaken by Joel Foxall going into the fourth and fifth chicane and gets rear-ended by Archie Middlefeld. Not a great start from Dylan Hartley.
Yeah, I really don't know what's happened to...
and back there, the McLaren and all this drivers trying to use the runoff, and they're just colliding with each other. It's penalties galore.
Yeah, it looks like Josh has gone off. He hasn't lost any front wing by the looks of it. Surprisingly, that was not good for his race. He's down in P19 after a pretty decent start for him. So he's already lost 7 positions.
Dylan Hartley all the way to the rear of the grid because of the collision which happened between the Renault and the Racing Point of Foxhall and Middlefeld. Wow, what a start for Dylan, dropping all the way back from an absolutely title challenging position to rear of the grid.
Yeah, most importantly for Max, obviously still in P1. I don't know whether he did jump the start. It definitely looked like he went very, very early on my screen. But I really don't know if that was an official jump start. Casper Meach down in P16, making up a few positions on his first lap. He's looking good in that Renault thus far.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't a jump start, I don't know what it was, as Dylan Hartley is now into first place. Right, okay. I'm not sure what goes on there, but Max Chapman still seems to be in charge of this race. Down into turn one. We'll have to check the race director's notes. Michael Massey will be surely on that. But Andre Abreu, Joel Foxall, Dylan Hartley now back down to last. Some issues with the timing screens. It seems Jay Robinson with one of the best starts of his so far down in P6. Wilson is behind him. Then Salaman. They're both the Mercedes boys running in the points. We have Mitchell having an incredible qualifying in the dry before as they now go through Curva Grande. Wow, what a sight it would see. What a sight it would be to see both of the Mercedes in the top 10.
Yeah, looking at the race director's notes, I can't see any sort of penalty for Max Chapman up in P1, so may have just been an issue with the game. He definitely looked like he went very, very early compared to the rest of the drivers. He got an incredible start, but I cannot see a penalty for him, which is really interesting.
Really interesting. We're now on board with Svaney in the Williams. You see just how bad the spray is now as he follows both the Mercedes drivers coming into the Lesmo corners. Now down towards the Ascari chicane. You can't see anything. Normally, DRS would be active as Alex Rinser has had a spin and caused a yellow flag through the Sector 2 period. Now into the Sector 3 section. We see a huge locker from the inside there from Svaney as he goes into the second of the Ascari corners. Now, out of there, he looks like he gets a better exit. I mean, who has a massive snap of oversteer? Ian's into the wall. Kevin O'Mara also out on the exit of Ascari. that has allowed Andre Muster to go down the inside of the virtual safety car. The drivers are going to have to back out.
Yeah, riding on board with Svaney there, we saw coming out of Ascari how much oversteer he was getting. That wheel spin from the rear tyres in these wet conditions proving incredibly difficult. So much so that Ian Hanwell got a massive snap of that oversteer I was talking about, and he nearly went into the barrier. It doesn't look like he managed to make any contact. We are under virtual safety car conditions at the moment after, as you said, Kevin retired from the race.
It was Ian first to go into the barrier, and I suspect that it was Kevin going into the exact same place. Maybe the snap from Ian caused a bit of dirty air on the exit there, as Dylan Hartley is having even more issues with the timing screen. Andre Muster under the virtual safety car going wide, but actually regaining his position. We saw the same issue with Sergio Perez back in Imola. The other Italian, as a green flag is shown around the track, he had to give the position back. Or get a time penalty, and he did, in the end, get a time penalty, be challenging. The Mercedes is Andre Muster for the final point position into turn 4 and 5, just looking at the brakes and a huge spin. That's the Casper Meech. The returning drivers had a collision between Andre Muster and, was that Svaney? I think it was Svaney.
Yeah, it looks like going into one of the corners there, the Red Bull of Nados got an incredible amount of oversteer. He locked both tyres going into the corner. Ben Mitchell, obviously, in the Mercedes as well, went really deep, so both of those drivers really losing out. Casper Meech, though, gaining and up into P10 already.
Wow. I mean, Casper Meech, even though he probably has significant wing damage from that collision, what a driving seat that is.
Yeah, most definitely. We've seen that before. An incredible drive from Casper Meech this far. Obviously good in the wet. He got some good pace. Not obviously setting a time in qualifying, but getting into that Renault from the outset, he's looking really, really good. Up into P10, already into the points. The Renault team are going to be very, very happy with their decision with bringing Casper in.
Yeah, we've had a message from race control that drivers Chapman and Hartley are both under investigation for the jump start. So we'll see what happens there with them later on, as Jerry Robinson makes up that position he lost into the first turn on the first lap, now up into P6.
Yeah, both the AlphaTauris in P5 and 6 looking really good. Obviously, Dylan, not the best start for him, losing one of the positions he got in qualifying, but still in P5, obviously not too bad at the moment.
I don't know, apparently for me, P18,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm not too sure what's going on there. Wilson making the position back now through the 4-5 chicane. Looks like Middlefeller's lost out a bit of time. I think that may be connection issue there for that driver, but Robinson up in P5, Joel Foxwell in front of him in P4, and in front is still Abreu, Schutt, and Chapman. Schutt winning the last race. Could he do it again?
Yeah, as you said, the top three still looking really strong at the moment. Max still setting those purple sector laps all the way through, even up until lap 4, so he's looking really good in the wet this far. Torben Schutt about 3 seconds behind him on average at the moment. He's obviously got a bit of work to do to get ahead of that Alfa Romeo, but they're looking good at the moment. The top three got that a good clean start, which was what they needed.
Go ahead and talk us through Torben Schutt's lap.
Yeah, Torben Schutt in P2, obviously chasing down the Alfa Romeo of Max Chapman, obviously Casper Meech in that Renault 4 today, going down the start-finish straight. That slipstream, there's a yellow flag out on track. I'm not sure if that's one of the McLarens, I'm not too sure, but back onto Torben Schutt's lap. Coming into the first corner nice and late on the brakes. Obviously not as late in the wet as he is on the dry, but going through there very, very slowly compared to what you would expect in the dry. He's 3.1 seconds behind the Alfa Romeo as we go through Curva Grande. In the dry, we can expect speeds of up to 210 miles an hour, not as fast today in that Ferrari. Coming up into the chicane, he's got that lock up again. Obviously we saw that on Svaney, that Williams struggling with the lockups, getting very, very close to that gravel on the exit here as we approach the first Lesmo corner. Nicely done. You can see those dry lines actually forming where these drivers have been setting the same line through the race thus far. Coming up towards another straight, he's still losing a lot of time on this lap. He's actually lost about half a second to Max Chapman as he approached Ascari, a very, very demanding corner, and even in the wet, it makes it even more challenging. Obviously much faster in the dry, but nicely done from Torben Schutt, still very, very committed. Is he going to get that oversteer we saw from other drivers? Not as much. A very, very good throttle control on the exit of that corner. Once again, another straight as we approach Parabolica, an incredible corner. Obviously we saw the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc have that huge accident going through here. Not the speed we'll be expecting today, though, in the wet as we approach the start-finish line for another lap of the Temple of Speed. Torben Schutt in P2 still about 3.2 seconds behind.
Yeah, I mean, 3.2, that's not that much to gain, but in the wet, it just is so much, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very tricky to make up that time. As you saw going into the first corner, he's gaining a lot of time on the Alfa Romeo. They're obviously a lot more aggressive on the brakes compared to him, but still, you know, the torque coming out of the corners in the wet is so important. Max looks like he's really got that nailed in his setup today.
Yeah, I mean, talking about setups, I mean, some of the drivers will have run dry setups during the qualifying session. Obviously, that was not broadcast to the public this weekend, but the dry setups could be utilized here, and that could be why we're seeing drivers like Andre Mustert losing out to the likes of Casper Meech, who had free reign on their setup due to not participating on Friday.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we've seen the weather forecast. These drivers knew from qualifying that there was going to likely be a wet race coming through Curva Grande. Andre still really challenging this Renault of Casper Meech, but not enough going into the chicane. But yeah, it's going to be challenging for Andre to get past this Renault, as we would assume that he's definitely that Casper Meech has definitely gone onto a more wet-focused setup going through the first Lesmo there. You can really see he's carrying a lot more speed through the corner, but through this second Lesmo, it looked like he was going to make a move there down the inside was Andre, but not this occasion. So yeah, as you said, it's going to be very, very challenging for Andre to get past in the wet.
A train of cars beginning to form now, the Haas and the McLaren behind, and then behind them is the Mercedes, and then also another Ferrari, another McLaren. So what's going on there in the middle rear pack?
It's very, very close between these guys. Very, very challenging in the wet to get these moves done. You know, you've got to give that extra margin. It's so unpredictable in the wet. These dry lines are starting to form, as I said, when we're going on board with Torben Schutt. But if you go offline onto those wet part of the tracks, it's incredibly slippery and incredibly difficult to get the move done. As we saw in Imola, you know, that George Russell versus Valtteri Bottas crash, George goes offline slightly and he slid right into the side of that Mercedes. So it's incredibly challenging for these guys.
It's so crazily tight, the margins, when you're going 330 kilometers an hour. Obviously, we talk about Imola and who was at fault there. It's so hard to say because Valtteri was taking the line, but he left enough space. But then again, George is closing at 30 kilometers an hour more because of the DRS. So margins are so tight in Formula One, especially in the wet.
Yeah, of course. You know, no DRS on track at the moment because of how wet it is. One of the racing points coming in for his pit stop. Looks like he may have gone straight back onto the wets, which is obviously the right option. Very, very wet out on track at the moment. No, does look, by the looks of it, it's going to change. Obviously, very, very cloudy at the moment. But yeah, as you said, it's incredibly difficult to judge whether to go for these moves. I'm still riding a ball with Andre in the Red Bull. Looks like Kasevich has got some front wing damage, which may be making him a bit slower going through the Lesbos here.
Oh, very tight there.
Kasper.
Very tight
like
between the Red Bull. And the rear is very tight as well.
Margins. Yeah, those extra margins that you have to give, that was very, very close between the two. As Joshua Mara in the McLaren's getting the move done on Matthew Widdowson in the Haas going into the Ascari chicane. Nicely done for him. Maybe have got the slipstream, which was really nice, and got that move done into the first corner of the Ascari chicane.
Yeah, I mean, when considering how difficult it is to overtake, it's so much easier when drivers in front that you are trying to challenge are battling with another, which was clearly what was happening there between the Andre and the Casper incident, especially when they tangled a little bit, which meant that Josh had an extra boost of power, a little bit more straight speed to get down, and there's just an absolutely huge train of about 8 cars now down the pit straight.
Yeah, it looks like this slipstream train, as you're referring to, is really assisting some of the guys, most notably Joshua Mara getting these moves done. Oh, as Nados goes wide into turn 1, he's going to have to take the runoff. He's going to lose a lot of time going through, weaving through these boards, and yeah, he's lost the time. He's out of the points position down into P13. Ben Mitchell in the Mercedes may even get a move done going into Curva Grande, as he does. That's a real shame for the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, I mean, FIA did say that the runoff was to be used this weekend. It's so difficult to take that first runoff in the actual F1 cars. In the F1 2020 cars. So we have permitted them to destroy a couple boards on the inside.
Yeah, no, we've seen that in real life. It's incredibly difficult to navigate those boards. A good example of Nados, though, using that runoff correctly. So it's good to see that he's following the race director's notes on into the second Lesbo. Incredibly close to the back of that Mercedes.
A huge snap of oversteer there from Adam Forbes in P11, who is now getting chased round the outside by Ben Mitchell, who now leads into the Ascari chicane corners. And wow, what a sight that was. Almost very clearly, very clear to touching there. But as a touch there was Adam Forbes into the rear, and round the outside goes Andre Mustert, 4 abreast down the back straight here at Monza.
Yeah, going through the Escarage again, it was incredibly close, and going in to the final corner, it's incredibly close between Adam and the Mercedes. Ian, as he goes wide, does Ian into the curve of Parabolica. That's a shame for Ian. It looks like he was going to get that move done on the McLaren, but not to be on this lap.
All the way wide. Joshua Mara now overtaking Casper Meech. That wing damage now coming into, well, some sort of fruition there. Obviously losing lots of time, Casper. Speaking of losing lots of time, the people who may lose time because of the penalties they're going to endure are Hartley and Chapman, both at the top of the timing screens for me right now. I'm not sure where they are for you right now, Stan, but we will go back and look at the race start replay, what happened there. So we see just waiting on the grid there, all of the drivers. I'm not too sure when we see the lights come on in just a second. There we go. We got the green flag. There's 3, 4, 5 lights. And the lights are out. And Dylan Hartley and Max Chapman definitely go a lot before the rest of the grid. So I'm not sure what the race director will want to do about that, because it's very clear that they did go a lot more early before the rest of the grid. We also look at the rest of what happened into turn 1. A little bit of a collision there at the rear. We see, yeah, it was both the McLarens and AlphaTauri of Jay, and I think that's Ben who got up into P9 by the start. But yeah, I think the race director will want to have a look at those incidents with Max Chapman and Dylan Hartley.
Yeah, very peculiarly, I didn't even see Dylan Hartley move on the start. It took him a little while to get going on my screen, so I really don't know what's happened at the start there. As you said, the race director will have a look at that, no doubt, at the end of the race. But yeah, an interesting one as Joshua Mara in P10 looks like he's going to come into the pit lane. Lap 10, what is he doing there? Maybe he's picked up some wing damage fighting some cars, I'm not sure.
Inter's weather?
I would say no. Maybe, yeah, he's going onto those wet tyres. He is replacing that front wing. He was battling really hard with the Haas as well as the Renault of Casper Meech. I'm not sure if there was some contact picked up there.
Oh, and as if by magic, Dylan Hartley is now back into P5. I'm not too sure what's gone on there. He's now being chased down by his teammate who's just gone straight into him. Excuse this, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with you there. I'm not seeing that at all. Dylan Hartley is, in fact, 7 seconds ahead of his teammate on my screen. I'm not sure if the game is struggling a little bit this evening. Dylan Hartley's very much in P5 for me, chasing down Joel Foxall in the start-finish rate. That's what I'm seeing on my screen anyway.
Right, I'm gonna go talk to him. If you could just take over for a second.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, a few technical issues on this Sunday afternoon. A very wet Monza still. Doesn't it like the weather? It's going to be changing anytime soon. As I said, Dylan Hartley is in P5 on my screen, now coming through the first corner chicane. Only 1.5 seconds behind Joel Foxall. Is he going to be able to get that move done, as Max Chapman still is very fast on track, getting those fastest sectors. He's got fastest sector 1 and sector 2. Andre Bro stealing that fastest sector 3 at the moment. He's still holding that 3-second gap between him and Torben Schutt in P1 and P2. Another notable mention is Thomas Salomon in P8, looking good in that Haas. Obviously losing a few positions on the start. His teammate, in fact, gaining 4 positions, and Andre in P10 gaining 7 positions in the race thus far, which is really good news for him. Casper Meech comes into the pit, another wing replacement for him. That may be to do with Joshua Mara in that McLaren. I'm not sure if there was any damage picked up between the two when they were fighting out on track. Very, very easy to do, of course, with these wet weather conditions. Who else can we talk about? Ian in P14, obviously notable mention, lost 3 positions, not his race at the moment. Is he going to be able to get some overtakes done? That train in the midfield still very, very much there between Adam Forbes, Ian Svaney, and Alex Rinser in the Red Bull at the back of that train at the moment. Is Ian going to be able to get a move done on Adam Forbes going into the Lesbo? Not at the moment. Very, very close between those. Who else can we talk about? James Wilson in P12, gained 2 positions. Good start for him. He's obviously already made that pit stop to go onto the wet tyres once again. I do believe that was to rectify some damage to his front wing. That can be the reason for that pit stop. We've got 2 penalties at the moment. One for Andre Muster. I believe that's a 3-second penalty. And one for James Wilson, which is a 5-second penalty for various reasons. So that's obviously going to affect their race in various ways. They've got to finish ahead of the guys behind him, 3 seconds and 5 seconds respectively. So can they do that? That's going to be a real challenge for them. I am wondering now when Callum is going to come back. I've just been speaking for quite a while. Ian's getting overtaken.
I'm sorry, Sam. I'm really trying to figure this out, because for all of the drivers, Dylan is in the correct position, but for you and I, he is not, and I'm not sure how we can rectify this without, I don't know, I have no idea how we can. Yeah, I have no idea where he is, and then apparently on my screen he jumped the start, and for you he didn't. I have no idea. But we'll go ahead with it. There's 15 more laps. I'm sure it will be investigated after the race. Remember, we have 2 positions at risk now. We have Grizzler Titan, who has left the league, and we also have the seat currently occupied by Casper Meach, P18. Unfortunately, I think he pitted whilst I was gone, but yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, if there's chance, because Dylan's just gone from 8th to 1st in the pits, and now he's in the Ascari chicane, but it says he's in the pits.
He's in the pits for me, if that helps.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, a Red Bull's just gone right into the back of him. Holy. Oh, and there's Joel as well. Oh no, what is going on here today in the Kenco F1 League? This is becoming dangerous for other drivers.
Yeah, I'm not sure what these drivers are actually seeing out on track, whether they are seeing this AlphaTauri being very much in the way. I really don't know. I'm definitely seeing Dylan back out on the track in P7 after that pit stop. He's at full racing speed. So I don't know what's going on there, to be honest.
I have no idea. Some sort of technical issue with the F1 2020 game. He's now going 20 kilometers an hour into turn 1. No idea what's going on here. But as I was saying, we do have 2 slots open, so if any of you are interested, do go to the, pardon me, Kenco Discord. If you go to twitch.tv/Kenco, type in !Discord, go in there and then go into the racing chat and say, I would like to please sign up for the Kenco F1 League, and me and Sam will go into there. There is no command in here. You have to go into the Kenco Twitch channel as Ian now collides with Dylan's rogue body.
Yeah, it looks like the drivers may actually be seeing that AlphaTauri out on track in the wrong place. That's going to be a real nuisance for them, as you said earlier. Another pitter, we've got Andre Abreu in P3 coming into the pits, going straight back onto those wet tyres. No front wing replacement for him, so that's really crucial. I believe, unless Joel's gone into the pits as well, so he's going to come back out on track in P3, so that was a good pit stop for him.
Dylan Hartley now back up into P1 as per usual. Max Chapman 3 seconds in front of Torben Schutt. Traffic now for Torben as he comes into the blue flag range.
Yeah, that's gonna be a really crucial time for Charlie in P2. Obviously, he needs to get past this traffic very, very quickly. You know, he's going to lose a lot of time to Max in P1 if he does not get through there quick enough. Obviously, the blue flags will assist him with that.
Remember, 3 blue flag boards the drivers have, and then they have to yield. It's the McLaren of Adam Forbes down in P18. What happened to Adam?
I'm really not sure. Adam may have come into the pits. Looks like he has. I'm not sure if he had to replace his front wing server penalty or anything like that. He's fighting hard with Ben Mitchell in P17 at the moment, though, so still looking very racy going through the Parabolica.
Well, I mean, Torben Schutt has the #1 view of all of this. Now we're down into the Ascari chicane. It's Andre Abreu, 30 seconds separating the front two to Andre. Wow, Max Chapman now in the pits.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Max and Charlie still yet to pit. Interestingly, they're both coming in on the same lap. Charlie not choosing to go for a strategic option to try and get ahead of Max, which is really interesting, and maybe relying on a slow pit stop from the Alfa Romeo boys. But no, he definitely hasn't gained any time there.
Yeah, and lost quite a bit by the looks of things as well, because there was some traffic in front. I'm not too sure which car that was. I think it was one of the Williams boys who's just come out of the pits, who has slowed Max Chapman down. We'll go on board with him out of this corner, see who it was. Someone's had to use the runoff as well. I'm not too sure which driver that was. Very good application of that there from them. But going through the chicane, yes, it is. It's Svaney now who's going to have to yield to Max Chapman in that yellow flag. Or sorry, in that blue flag scenario.
Yeah, looks like coming out the pits, that was Svaney ahead of Max Chapman, as you said, in that Williams. Looks like coming out the pits, those colder, wet tyres. He wasn't expecting the lack of grip going into turn 1, and he went straight on. Max and Charlie, though, Torben Schutt in P2, of course, not suffering from the same issue.
I mean, they're about 2 seconds behind in the dry, but in the wet, Torben's about 5 or 6 seconds. So how do you make that up in such a short distance of laps? There's only so many laps left as Adam
car.
Forbes is gone, and safety car it is. Wow, this could really level out the field. We said, how do you make that time up? But I know how you can make it. A safety car is how you can make it.
Yeah, looks like Adam has maybe suffered the same fate as Kevin, who retired very much earlier onto the race. Yeah, look at him on board with Max Chapman. You can see him out of the Ascari chicane. He's gone straight into the barrier, maybe suffering from a lack of grip in the wet. That's a real shame for Adam. He's looking really good, actually. Looking really racy. Obviously, he had gotten down quite far down the order, but he was still looking really racy nonetheless. Safety car conditions now for these guys. It's going to really bring the field back together.
Yeah, I mean, bringing the field back together in a wet race will really make things interesting. We saw it back in Imola after the red flag last weekend. And this weekend, we're going to see it at Monza, the other Italian track on the calendar. So, 9 laps to go. Oh, sorry, 11 laps to go after Max Chapman has done this one. And, you know, the safety car, well, I don't know. I would normally say would really shake things up, but I'm not too sure now because no alternate strategies due to the wet conditions.
Yeah, that's very true. Of course, you know, these guys don't want to be going on any other compound except from the wet tire. But last week, we saw what Torben Schutt can do with very few laps. He performed under the pressure incredibly, obviously taking the win on one of the very last laps from Max Chapman. I wonder if he can put off something very similar. He was really always gone very deep into the second corner, but that's all right. He's under safety car conditions. I wonder if he can put off a similar effort from what he did last week.
I mean, last week it was really just a case of saving up the electricity and battery sort of situation so he could attack in the final corner, and it really was just the final corner that made the race for him, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. He's Max and Torben Schutt full ERS, as you would expect under these safety car conditions. They can really turn down the car in terms of fuel usage as well as ERS usage, so that can be really beneficial for them, especially the likes of Torben Schutt that really need to get past this Alfa Romeo in order to win the race today. That's going to be at the forefront of his mind, of course. The points are very close at the front, very close in both the team and driver championships. It's incredibly close with Thomas Schutt now only, I believe that's 31 points behind Max.
Well, I mean,
so it's getting close.
I mean, the man in second is down in P12, so no points for him.
That is true. He's obviously missed last week's race after retiring from the league back in P12. I don't know if a one trip back into the Kenco League will help him win the championship, but you know, getting points is really important, and we know a competitive I should say Casper is, and he will definitely want to be getting these points for the Renault outfit. He's in P12, of course. This safety car could really assist him. He's got his full front wing back, which is really important.
Dylan Hartley now half the way across the track for me. This game is ridiculous. But I mean, Max seems to be unaltered by the jump start. I mean, no penalty issue by the game, but a message from the race director says that it would be a 5-second post-race time penalty if it did come back positive. So he's got to make 5 seconds to Torben if he just wants the slimmer of being safe, even if that penalty is denied.
Yeah, of course, he's going to want to get that margin in the bag, just in case. You know, it's very unpredictable. Modern day F1, these penalties can really be incredibly surprising and also really ruin your race. You just want to have that in your pocket just in case. I'm sure Max will be aiming for that as much as he can. I really don't know about that incident, you know. I don't know if it was just like a desync issue with the game. I mean, I didn't see Dylan Hartley move at all. I saw the race replay back on the stream, and I did not see that at all. So it's really peculiar. So
I'm just looking at it
for the race director.
I'm just looking at it on my second screen. It's. We'll have a look at it again. It's so clear to me that both of those cars have jumped the start. But if you're saying that it didn't happen, then I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say. Because when two people are getting different views, then you don't really know. But if we look here, yeah, they both definitely go before. And Dylan even clips Torben Schutt on that start, which could have actually affected him. And a good start there we see there from, who is that? That's the Williams at the back of Andre. But just by how far in front Dylan and Max are into turn one, that just shows how much they did benefit from that jump start.
Yeah, that is really, really weird. As I said, I didn't see any of that from Dylan in as much of him hitting Torben's shot or even getting anywhere near close to the Ferrari. So a very, very peculiar situation. Going to be a tough decision for the race directors, no doubt. But yeah, as you said, Max definitely got a really, really good start.
No idea then, but the Williams boys trapped together. Even though one of them's in P17, the other one's up in P3. Svenny is going to have to lay his teammate past on the restart.
Yeah, obviously, pretty soul-destroying seeing your teammate fly past you on the restart. Obviously, Andre in P3 with hopes for a podium today if this restart goes well for him, and Svenny down in P17. Not his race today, as Andre definitely doesn't want to be overtaking under this safety car. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for these guys. The likes of Josh O'Mari's going to be pushing for those points. He's looking really, really strong in the last few races, maybe coming into his own slightly in that McLaren, which is really, really good news for him. You know, development throughout the league is so important. So maybe he could get those points today.
Yeah, we see it here, Svenny on board. Looks like he's in P3, but he's actually down there in last position. So we'll see what goes on with those drivers. But all the drivers now have really got to compose themselves coming through Ascari chicane. What sort of stuff are you looking for on a wet restart? Because we've had dry restarts before, and in China it was just moist when we had a restart. But now it is full-blown wet.
Yeah, incredibly tricky. Don't want to step on the loud pedal too aggressively. You know, it's so easy to spin in these wet conditions. You obviously really want to catch the driver behind you off guard, but you don't want to spin right at the start of the restart. The safety car is in this lap, so we will see what happens.
I'll definitely have to check up on you and see if I get anything right, because Dylan Hartley, for me, is halfway around the track. For you, he's in the middle of the pack, and it rhymes because it's true. And around the Parabolica, we see Max Chapman in that Alfa Romeo get an absolutely incredible launch, but he's backing him back up because he realised that he didn't get far enough away. That could be, once again, looked at by the race director. Once you go, you cannot stop. But now, into the first couple corners, it'll be Max Chapman leading from Torben Schutt. Dylan Hartley now into P1, apparently for me, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. Dylan Hartley is definitely not in P1 as Torben Schutt takes to round the outside approach into turn one. He might get a switch back now into turn two. It's Max Chapman leading from Torben Schutt, who is leading from Andre Abreu, then James Wilson. Joe Vauxhall had a great start, but he has to use the runoff, and a yellow flag in sector one means all the drivers behind Joel Vauxhall will have to yield. But you said Andre Abreu looking for podium position. Joel Vauxhall is definitely wanting that.
Yeah, very, very close battle once again going into turn one between Joel and Andre for that P3 position. An incredible train going through the chicane there. About 5 drivers battling for that position. It's getting so close behind the likes of Joel Vauxhall, Dylan Hartley, Jay Robinson really fighting. The first Lesmo, Nados, and the Renault of Archie Middlefeld fighting very closely.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, but Max Chapman actually got tipped by Torben Schutt into the first of the Lesmo corners, so
yeah.
Losing his rear, I don't know if that was a connection issue or what, because Max Chapman now 1 second in front, only 4 seconds clear of the penalty already.
Yeah, that was a good restart there from Max. But interesting, actually, as you said, you know, he definitely went and then sort of slowed down again and then went. You know, we don't want to be seeing that in Formula 1, that Constantina effect. We saw that in Portimao. It can cause huge incidents. Luckily, we didn't see any of that, but I do believe the race director will be looking at that. Torben Schutt only half a second behind him going through the Parabolica. Max once again losing time going through the corners. No DRS to assist Torben Schutt going into turn one. That slipstream, the only thing going to be helping him. Is he going to be able to do it? I think he's a bit too far back. 4 tenths, 3 tenths, yeah, a bit too far back by the looks of it for the Ferrari driver, but he's pushing very hard, using that ERS to its full advantage.
All of the Tifosi will be eating their hearts out, seeing the red Ferrari going through the Parabolica 1 lap after a restart. If you cast your mind back to the 2020 Italian Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc on the restart of the safety car actually binned it into Parabolica, and of course the red flag, of course. So as long as Torben Schutt is safe now through this lap, they will be surely fine, but it will be all out to Tifosi if a Ferrari wins today in Monza.
Yeah, nothing like a Ferrari driver winning in Monza. Charlie will be really wanting this win today. He's been on incredible form recently. Max, though, still 6/10 ahead of him. I do believe he's having some connection issues, or he is at least on my screen. That might be throwing off Charlie slightly. You know, you've got to give that extra margin in the wet, and especially with some connection issues for the Alfa Romeo driver, using the track limits to their full advantage. They're going into the Ascari chicane. Was Torben show he's going very, very aggressive on the Alfa Romeo driver.
Really quick it looks through there, the Ascari chicane. But we've already seen one Alfa Romeo out through there, so is Max Chapman going to be wary through there? No, he's not, because he's the leader of the championship. He's going to go through Parabolica. This time, it is Max Chapman leading from Torben Schutt by a significant margin. But Torben has got the fastest lap, and now it goes down to the Williams. We see the gap closing, 2/10, 1/10 separating them on the brakes early for Torben Schutt, possibly looking for a quick switchback. As he goes into turn 2, Max Chapman goes a little bit deep there, and that allows Torben Schutt to get on the power as soon as he does.
Yeah, very, very close. The closest it's been going to turn 1 on lap 21. It's looking good for the Ferrari driver at the moment. As you said, he had that fastest lap for a split second before it's stolen from the Williams driver. Going into the second chicane, bit too far back. I think his best opportunity will be going into turn 1. He gains a lot of time coming through Parabolica, being able to get a lot more speed through the corner in these wet conditions. It's going to be incredibly close. He's got those final few laps like it was last week in Belgium to get this move done.
What about the battle for P3? Andre Abreu chased now by Joel Foxhall.
Yeah, incredibly close between these two guys as well. Going through the second Lesmo, Joel going very, very aggressive on the exit curve, even touching the gravel slightly. Don't want to be doing that in these wet conditions. The gravel can really unsettle your car. Going through the Ascari chicane, he's still only about 1 second behind the Williams driver. Similar gap now between Torben Schutt and Max Chapman with Joel and Andre. So two very, very close battles between the 4 front runners at the moment going into the Parabolica. Joel still a bit too far back to get a move done on the Williams, but if he gets a good exit, he may be able to get a move done into turn 1. We'll have to wait and see.
But now see as turn 1 is really just a matter of seconds away. Torben Schutt dropping back 1.5 seconds to Max Chapman down through the Parabolica. It's now Joel Foxhall gaining on the Williams, passing the Williams down into turn 1, taking the inside line is is Joel Foxhall. Now, and using the runoff really oddly there is Andre Abreu. If that gains him any time, he'll have to yield the position back. And yes, he is going to have to yield the position back because he's actually kept his position there by giving it back to Joel.
No, that's not good for Andre. He needs to get that position back as soon as possible. He cannot be defending P3. That P3 is not his. Joel got the move done going into turn 1. Obviously, Andre using that runoff. He didn't feel like he could get into turn 1 safely, but he really, really needs to give this position back. Otherwise, he's going to incur penalties, as he does going into the second Lesmo by the looks of it.
There we go, and just giving it back is an order from the race director. I'm not sure whether he got a penalty for going through too quick there. It looked as if he didn't go quite slow enough.
Yeah, obviously with that battle between him and Joel, he's going to be really wanting to get through that first turn runoff as soon as possible. But that is not allowed. You have to at least attempt to go around the board. So obviously it is incredibly difficult with the lack of turning in these F1 2020 cars. But he's given the position back, which is the most important thing. The runoff issue will be looked at after the race, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, he's already had a speaking to by the race director today, so he's not in the best books, is Andre in the number 62 Williams. But coming through the Parabolica, 1 lap ago, he was just 6/10 in front of Joel Foxhall. Now will it be him 6/10 in front of Joel Foxhall into turn 1 this time? We'll see as he gains on the racing point, cannot get past the racing point by the looks of things. He takes the inside line, but he's going to have to be incredibly late on the brakes. And he actually has a massive lockup, causing Joel have to go all the way around the outside. But superbly done there from the racing point driver.
Yeah, a few things to note here. Joel is carrying a 3-second time penalty. I believe Andre is also carrying a 5-second time penalty. So P5 for James Wilson at the moment. If he can stay within 3 seconds of Joel Foxhall in P3, he could be on for a podium position. He may be able to snap up that podium position from his teammate. Obviously, he's only 2 seconds behind the Williams of Andre Abreu, so unless Andre can pull out 5 seconds from the racing point, he will not be staying in P4.
Could this be some sort of strategy now from the racing point team to hold back the driver behind and give James Wilson the pass?
Yeah, that's actually a really good thought there, actually, Callum. You know, that racing point of Joel maybe slowing down this Williams as much as possible. He obviously will want to retain this podium position. He's got to stay he's got to stay ahead of the guy behind him by 3 seconds.
I mean, for Racing Point, it's win-win regardless. One of their guys, either way, will be on that podium because Andre's penalty is greater than Joel's, unless Jay, for the first time ever, can snatch up a podium in the Kenco F1 League.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very close. James will be really, really wanting that podium, as you said. I believe it will be his first podium in the Kenco F1 League, so he's going to be fighting incredibly hard for this in the last 3 laps of the race. Torben shut in P2, really, really lost a lot of time to Max Chapman, unfortunately, in P1. He's now 2 seconds behind. It's going to be a hard challenge for him to gain that in the last 3 laps of this race. The rain looks like it is not giving up the entirety of this race.
Well, one thing that made this race interesting was definitely the safety car, and what better to hear than the man that caused the safety car. We got a team radio from the McLaren garage.
Yeah, I was P13, but Josh will get me in the points, hopefully. It'll be a comeback and a half, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, a very, very, very optimistic view there from the team player that is Adam Forbes. I mean, even though it wasn't him that is in the points, as long as the team's in the points, he's happy, I guess.
Yeah, his teammate obviously in P11 at the moment, 2.5 seconds behind the standing driver of Casper Meach in that Renault. Looks like Casper may be on for some points at the moment. No commentators curse today, I do hope, for Casper. But Josh, still without outside of those points positions at the moment, being battled very, very hard by the Mercedes of Ben Mitchell.
Dylan Hartley would be winning this race on my screen, but now he's down to P16. Where actually is he?
I see him as P6 on my screen and half a second behind James Wilson. Is this battle between him and James Wilson going to cost him a podium potentially? We'll have to wait and see.
I have no idea, because on my screen he'd be last, but the game works in wonderful ways. 2 laps to go upon crossing the finish line, because there is 1 lap extra, remember, in Formula 1 or any kind of motorsport. The final lap does count as add lap, and Dylan Hartley now up into turn 1 as Max Chapman turns on some sort of grip hacks and does a 360 in the first turn. I have no idea what's happening.
I really don't know what's going on with your game this evening. Max Chapman still ahead in P1 by about 2.8 seconds. Charlie almost nowhere to be seen, in fact, coming out of the Curva Grande. I feel like this is really slipping away from the Ferrari driver now. He's got to bank on Max making a mistake. You know, it is the wet, it's very unpredictable, but Max is an incredibly commanding driver. We'll have to wait and see whether that happens.
He might just be waiting for that penalty. Yeah, no doubt his team will be notified that a 5-second time penalty would mean that he would still be in the points. Oh, sorry, would still be in a running for this win. So we'll have to see what goes on with that. I don't know. On your screen, did it look like a jump start?
For Max, I'm not sure. It looked like he got a much better start than the rest of the field. He did go very, very early. And I didn't see that from Dylan, but I definitely saw that from Max. So I'm not sure. But the weird thing is that the game didn't give him a penalty. So I really don't know what to say about that one.
I mean, if it's some sort of advantage, you've surely got to penalise it one way or another. I don't know. It'll be investigated after the race, either way. But the battle I'm really interested in that definitely won't be investigated after the race, because both of these do actually have penalties, so given out by the game, as you did say. But yeah, P3, P4, Foxall, Abreu.
Yeah, it looks like Abreu is really, really low on that ERS. He's used it all, in fact, before the end of the start-finish straight. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a real challenge for him to get ahead of Joel. And as I said earlier, he's still carrying that 5-second penalty versus that 3-second penalty for Joel. Joel's looking good for that podium position with his teammate dropping back significantly. Now he's still within that 5-second margin behind that Williams, but it's going to be incredibly close. At the 2 AlphaTauris now swapped position going through Curva Grande, but Dylan Hartley's still ahead at the moment.
Dylan Hartley definitely still ahead. For me, he's in P1, getting chased down 1 second by the leader, but that is not the case, as it looks like they probably will have a coming together down here into the Ascari chicane. It's almost as if some sort of wizardry, and straight into the back of Dylan Hartley goes Max Chapman. No actual collision there in reality, but there'll be some sort of massive collision that happens here. No, because the AI, or whatever it is, some sort of phantom AlphaTauri is going around the track. Maybe maybe Alex Albon coming back for another go.
Yeah, that is... Oh no, Josh is retired. Josh in the McLaren has Bindit coming out of the first Lesmo. He's out of the race. That's a real shame for the
no.
McLaren driver.
After his teammate as well saying, "Oh, we can get Josh in the points." No, Josh is not in the points. What happened there?
no.
Did you see it?
I did not see it. I just saw it pop up on this mini map. He may have just got that oversteer coming out of the first Lesmo, and yeah, he gone straight into the barrier. Such a shame for the McLaren driver. He was so close to the point positions today.
Max Chapman starts the final lap, and it's 2 seconds behind Torben Schutt. And behind him, Dylan Hartley's now into P3.
Is he?
Yeah, is he? Is the real question. Where actually is he? Is he P6 or P7?
He's still P6 for me, very, very close to the racing point of James Wilson. James has now fallen out of that 5-second margin behind the Williams. This is not good news for him. He's got to gain about 6/10 on the Williams on this final lap in order to steal that P4 from him.
Be interesting if Svenny didn't manage to make it round, because Josh would finish in front of him, even though he is, even though Svenny actually finished the race and Josh didn't. We saw that back in Imola with technically, what's his name, Sebastian Vettel being classified. But as Dommy says, Josh feels bad man. I'm sure it does feel bad man in that McLaren garage.
Yeah, that's a real shame. Double DNF at Monza. I mean, incredibly difficult conditions for the guys out there today. But yeah, such a shame for Josh to lose out so far into the race.
Last week, it was Torben Schutt who, into the final corner, was the man who took the victory. This week, it's Max Chapman. Vindication for the Alfa Romeo garage. Vindication for Max Chapman. He won in the past, but today he wins at Monza. It's Max Chapman in the first podium position, and behind him, Torben Schutt, and surely behind him, it will be vindication for Joel Foxer, who swerves across the line, and has a massive collision as he goes round. Oh no, Joel. I'm not sure if that means... I'm not sure what's gone on there.
Did he just give himself a penalty?
I think he just gave himself a penalty. Andre Abreu into P3. Joel Foxall P4. Surely that means Dylan Hartley is P5. For me, it's Jay Robinson. But no, Joel. Joel.
I think he crashed out just before the finish line, and he gave himself a penalty.
Joel.
I could be wrong there.
No.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That's a real shame for him. I'll have to have a look at that one. I'm not sure if he got that penalty right at the end of the race or not.
All I'm gonna say is
it looks like he actually did.
All I'm gonna say is F1 2020. What actually was the final penalty given for?
I'm not. It says an unserved penalty for 5 seconds. The last time I checked it, it was definitely 3 seconds. But also, Andre also had a 5-second penalty. So I don't know what's happened there, honestly. I really don't know what's happened with Joel. He's in P4 for me on the timing trees. Andre still getting that final podium positions, but he said, I got a penalty to review for using runoff and letting a car I overtake pass. So it looks like an issue with the game and not letting guys get back ahead of him. What's an end to the race? A very, very bizarre end to the race, full of lots of issues with the cars today.
Remember, lads, exclamation mark DOTD in the chat. Driver of the day for yours. Who was yours today, Sam? Sam's dead. I'm not sure what's happened with Sam. I think he has actually just died.
Yeah, I'm back now.
Oh, there he is. He's back.
That's a hard one, honestly. Max Chapman, another great drive from him. Torben just did not have the pace for him today. But, yeah, I think it's close. Nados in P9, P16 to P9, looking good for him. Maybe up there as well. I'm not too sure. There was lots of guys out there. Some really, really good races, considering the conditions.
Yeah, amazing. Jay got P5 today. Amazing finish from him. Or did he get P5? Because Dylan, for me, got P8. I don't know what results are right now.
Yeah, I really don't know what's going on. This game has sort of failed us today. But yeah, a peculiar race, I will have to say. It's a very, very wet Monza.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and talk to the man who could be P3, could be P4, we don't know. Joel Foxall. Joel, talk to us about the crash on the finish line. How's your neck?
Oh yeah, just slight loss of control, bit of overwhelmed from finally getting myself what I thought would hopefully be back on a podium. It will definitely be something that I review when it comes back to the stewards. Using the runoff, yielding a position back, and getting a 3-second penalty for that. So if I can get that removed, that would be P3. But yeah, crash a little bit big, but definitely something easy to recover from the safety of these cars.
I hate to scare you, but the person behind you, or well, in this case in front of you, but what's his name? Andre also got a penalty for using the runoff, so that would still be 3 seconds for you.
It would. From my view, what I saw, Andre did seem to kind of, not. He looked like he went quite straight through it, and he managed to pick up a 5-second penalty going through it. I picked up a 3-second and yielded position back straight away, whereas I was kind of stuck behind him until a few corners later as to yield back a position. So hopefully we'll see what happens with it, but I'm pretty confident if stewards allow it that I can get mine removed. Whether Andre is on the same boat, then I'm not sure, but hopefully mine can get removed and in the nicest way possible. I can keep my P3.
What's your view on the first lap incident with Max Chapman possibly taking a 5-second time penalty? Did it look like a jump start from where you were?
Oh, for me, I was really confused by that. I mean, yeah, he did jump the start for me. Whether it's just an in-game problem or not, I'm not sure. Obviously, if he gets a penalty, then that's Charlie for another win. And as much as I hate to see it with his streak of wins at the moment, then whoever wins, I'll be happy for. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said it there. Tifosi would be going mad if it was that, and I'm not sure if they will be going mad. What was the gap in the end, Sam? Do you know?
Between Max and
Between
Charlie.
Max and Charlie, yeah.
On my screen, it says 1/10.
What?
I don't know how that's happened. I mean, I don't think Charlie made up 3.5 or so seconds on the last lap. I really don't know what's happened today, honestly.
Yeah, it says 1/10 for me as well. No penalty exactly for.
Yeah.
This game is an absolute shambolic mess. Is what I meant to say. But yeah, I mean, Joel, good drive regardless. We could have seen you on the podium there. We could have seen your teammate on the podium as well. It looked as though Nuts had some pace.
Yeah, he was doing really well. He had to box very early for wing damage, but managed to keep the tyres to the end, finishing on about 75% tyre. So just on the verge of being in danger zone of getting a puncture. So yeah, he did really well. Got some good points for the team, and nice to see him back in the points, scoring as well as he has done in the past.
Oh, well done, Joel.
Thanks.
We'll go ahead and talk to the possible race winner, the possible race runner-up. We're not sure which one as of yet. Max Chapman, how are you doing, mate? Max Chapman, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Go ahead and enlighten us on what happened on that first lap incident.
Well, my internet just crashed before the race, and I took control of the car as the lights went out, and then my car just jumps forward, and I'm like a couple car lengths in front of Charlie for the first corner. Don't really know what happened, to be honest.
How devastated would you be to have another race taken from you? Last week, Charlie in the final corner. This week, from the very start.
I'd be very annoyed after because it's not really my fault. Can't really help it. It's up to the game if it was to give me a penalty or not. But as I didn't get a penalty, I don't think I deserve the win.
Don't think you deserve the win.
No, I think I deserve the win.
Right. I mean, I was a little bit confused then. Yeah. I mean, Sam, what was your take on it? I mean, yeah, of course, the game didn't give him a penalty, but there was definitely a lasting advantage there.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. I really don't know what's happened today. I mean, on the stream, Dylan definitely looked like he went at the same time as Max. He also looked like he crashed into the back of the Ferrari of Charlie, but didn't look like there was any damage. So I really don't know what's happened today. I did see on the formation that Max was definitely having some connection issues. I don't know. It's a hard call, but yeah, as you said, Max definitely got that advantage going into turn one. it's a hard one because obviously Max didn't do it on purpose. I don't know.
I don't know. It'll definitely be investigated after the race, especially with the party involved as well. I'm sure Max will give us some insight on what gone on there. But either way, Max, you happy with your race today?
Yeah, very happy. My pace was strong, even after that little connection issue at the start of the race. But other than that, the safety car was a bit annoying because I had a comfortable gap to Charlie. But other than that, it was a nice race, to be honest.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, 1:31.123 was your fastest lap in the end. The next quickest one was a 1:31.5. That is ridiculous that you're 4/10 quicker every single lap.
Yeah, I guess just practice makes perfect for me.
Practice, definitely. Indeed. Currently 34 points clear in the championship, and this today would pull you up to 40 points clear, or thereabouts. So, definitely one to watch for the rest of the season. Good race today, Max. Have you got anything to say, Sam?
No, definitely good race, good pace. Yeah, Charlie was not a match for you today, so good job.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, that will be it. Sam, what a race.
It was a race. A bit of an interesting one with the quirks of the F1 2020 game, but yeah, a good one nonetheless. Some good racing from these guys today, and some incredibly challenging conditions. So yeah, a really good effort, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
What can we expect next week?
Well, we can expect us. Where are we going next week? We can expect to be in Singapore. A very interesting track, obviously a street race and a night race. So a really, really cool one to watch next week. Definitely come and see that next week. And yeah, I'm sure it'll be as interesting as today.
Sorry for putting you on the spot there, Sam. But yeah, Singapore next week. See ya, guys.